Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour. South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol released from prison, but the trial continues. Myanmar junta chief announces plan to hold elections by January 2026. 53 political parties already submit lists to participate. Donald Trump warns Russia of sanctions until ceasefire deal is reached to push Russia and Ukraine to negotiate peace talks. And on International Women's Day, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacts with Lakhpati Didis in Navsari, launches various developmental projects. South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol walked out of a detention center in Seoul on Saturday after prosecutors decided not to appeal a court decision to cancel the impeached leader's arrest warrant on insurrection charges. Yoon remains suspended from his duties and under insurrection charges over his short-lived martial law imposition on December 3rd. The criminal case is separate from his impeachment trial, in which the Constitutional Court is expected to decide in coming days whether to reinstate him or remove him from office. Now, Myanmar's military junta chief Min Aung Hlaing has announced plans to hold a national election by January 2026. Speaking during a visit to Belarus, Hlaing emphasized that the election would be free and fair, signaling the junta's intention to return to civilian rule. Adding to that, Hlaing informed that 53 political parties have already submitted their list to participate in the election. However, the country remains in a state of political turmoil since the military coup in February 2021, which ousted the democratically elected government led by Aung San Suu Kyi.
We plan to hold a free and fair election soon under the law. We are planning to hold the election in December 2025 or at the earliest by January 2026.
Now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un inspected the country's first nuclear-powered missile submarine, as reported by its state media on Saturday. Kim also inspected large new warships under construction at 2 locations, one on each coast. During the visit, Kim declared that the vessels will be deployed soon. According to North Korea state media, Kim said that naval power and its nuclear armament was crucial to the sovereignty of the country. South Carolina executed a convicted murderer by firing squad on Friday, the first use of the method in the United States in 15 years. Brad Sigmund chose to be killed by a firing squad, saying he feared the alternatives of the electric chair or lethal injection would risk a slower and more torturous death. Sigmund was convicted of beating to death his ex-girlfriend's parents, William and Gladys Locke, with a baseball bat at their home in the town of Taylors in 2001. After he was shot, Sigmund appeared to take 2 short breaths and a blood stain appeared on his chest. He was pronounced dead about 3 minutes after the shots were fired. A few hours before the scheduled execution time, the U.S. Supreme Court rejected Sigmund's final petition to halt his killing. The court, in a brief unsigned notice with no noted dissents, denied his application, which argued that South Carolina's refusal to share information about its lethal injection protocol violated his due process rights. And the anti-abortion movement in the United States has set its sights on a new target, which is doctors sending bills across state lines to help women and unwanted pregnancies. Since the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to overturn the federal protection of the right to an abortion, states like Texas and Louisiana have adopted tough anti-abortion laws. Texas and Louisiana are launching a legal case against a doctor in New York, a state which in turn has passed a shield law to protect its physicians from outside prosecutions. In Texas, Attorney General declared that out-of-state doctors may not illegally and dangerously prescribe abortion-inducing drugs to Texas residents. And US President Donald Trump on Friday threatened new sanctions and tariffs on Russia days after pausing military aid and intelligence support to Ukraine, and he called on both countries to get on with negotiating a peace deal. Trump's threats of banking curbs and tariffs followed a report that the White House was preparing to give Russia possible sanctions relief as part of the push to end the conflict and improve diplomatic and economic ties with Moscow. But the president offered a more conciliatory view of President Vladimir Putin in comments later in the day, saying he believed the Russian leader wanted peace. He also said it was easier to work with Russia than Ukraine in efforts to end the conflict. Russia, one of the world's biggest oil producers, is already subject to wide-ranging sanctions imposed by the United States and partners after February 2022. U.S. sanctions on Russia include measures aimed at limiting its oil and gas revenues, including a cap of $60 per barrel on Russia's oil exports. Now, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio held a call with Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha on Friday and told him President Donald Trump was determined to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict as soon as possible. Though Ukraine's position in Kursk has deteriorated sharply in the last 3 days, as Russian forces have almost surrounded thousands of Ukrainian troops who stormed into Russia's Kursk region last summer. The Russian counteroffensive has nearly cut the Ukrainian force in two and separated the main group from its principal supply lines. Russian forces also damaged energy and gas infrastructure inside Ukraine overnight in their first major missile attack since the U.S. paused intelligence sharing with Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed the ongoing discussions with U.S. President Trump's team and aid support from European nations.
Today, the most intensive work with the President Trump's teams at various levels has been ongoing all day. Many calls. The focus is clear. Peace as soon as possible. Security as reliably as possible. Ukraine is committed to being as constructive as possible. Today, Russia's strike on our energy system and civilian infrastructure happen as routinely for Russia as ever, just as vile and cynical as always, as if there was no efforts by Ukraine and the world to end this war.
Now, China has announced retaliatory tariffs on Canadian agricultural and food products on Saturday against Ottawa's tariffs introduced in October on Chinese-made electric vehicles and steel and aluminium products. The tariffs announced by the Commerce Ministry will take effect from March 20th. It adds a new front to a trade war largely driven by U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement of tariffs on Canada, Mexico and China and threats of protectionist measures on other nations. Now, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said in August that Ottawa was imposing the levies to counter what he called China's intentional state-directed policy of overcapacity, following the lead of the United States and European Union, both of which have also applied import levies to Chinese-made EVs. China is Canada's second-largest trading partner, trailing far behind the United States. Now, Senator Bernie Sanders brought his fighting oligarchy tour to Kenosha, Wisconsin on Friday, where he told a large crowd that the U.S. is living in an oligarchy. The 83-year-old senator urged the crowd not to accept oligarchy, authoritarianism or kleptocracy. Sanders criticized billionaires like Elon Musk and Donald Trump for pushing massive tax breaks for the wealthiest 1%, totaling over $1 trillion. He warned that these tax cuts would be funded by severe cuts to Medicaid, nutrition programs and education. Sanders began his tour on February 21st in Nebraska and added more stops due to the large turnout at his events.
I will not be telling you any secrets that politicians historically lie occasionally. It has happened once or twice. People stretch the truth occasionally, it happens. But what we have never seen is the use of the big lie in a way that we are seeing it right now. Let us never ever forget that real change only occurs when ordinary people stand up against oppression and injustice.
Now, Greece's centre-right government narrowly survived a no-confidence vote on Friday despite intense public outcry over the country's deadliest train crash in 2023. The opposition had accused Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis' government of negligence and cover-up, but the ruling party denied any wrongdoing. The train crash has sparked widespread anger, with hundreds of thousands demanding justice and accountability. Protests outside Parliament turned violent, with clashes between demonstrators and police resulting in 61 detentions. Mitsotakis ruled out an early election, citing the country's economic recovery. However, the government's popularity has taken a hit, with many Greeks questioning the immunity enjoyed by politicians. And the foreign minister from the 57-member Organization for Islamic Cooperation met at its headquarters in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, 3 days after the Arab League endorsed Egypt's alternative plan for Gaza. At the meet, OIC members adopted the Arab nation's counter-proposal to US President Donald Trump's Gaza takeover plan. At the meeting held in Cairo on March 4, Arab leaders had adopted an Egyptian reconstruction plan for Gaza that would cost $53 billion and avoid displacing Palestinians from the enclave, in contrast to US President Donald Trump's Middle East Riviera vision.
It is certainly very positive that the emergency ministerial meeting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation adopted the Egyptian plan, which has now become an Arab Islamic plan. The next step is for it to be an international plan.
Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. South Carolina executed a convicted murderer by firing squad on Friday. This is the first use of the method in the United States in 15 years. 67-year-old Brad Sigmund chose to be killed by a firing squad. Sigmund was convicted of killing his partner's parents in 2001. Thousands of people attended a candlelight vigil and prayed for the health of Pope Francis as they marched to the Buenos Aires Metropolitan Cathedral in Argentina. Pope remains in a delicate but stable condition as he battles pneumonia in hospital. North Korea held sports and recreation gaming event for the Women's Union in Pyongyang to mark International Women's Day. Members of the Women's Union participated in various sports competitions such as volleyball and yutnori, a traditional Korean game. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Syria witnesses worst violence since the fall of Bashar al-Assad in December last year. US Department of Justice drops proposal to force Google to sell its investments in artificial intelligence companies.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Syria witnessed worst violence since the fall of Bashar al-Assad in December last year. Syrian security forces battled to crush an insurgency by fighters from Bashar al-Assad's Alawite sect in coastal region of western Syria. Authorities also imposed curfew in the cities of Latakia and Tartus, where fighting has broken out. Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said more than 250 people have been killed since the clashes erupted on Thursday. United Nations said there is an immediate need for restraint from all parties. Russia too called on all leaders to stop the bloodshed. DD India's Fuzail Ahmed reports.
Islamist-led government in Syria faces the biggest challenge yet to its authority, as scores were reported killed in 2 days of violence in the coastal region of western Syria. Residents say violence began with killings of Alawite civilians in the Datur area of Latakia. Syria's leader, Ahmad al-Shara, urged insurgents from toppled President Bashar al-Assad's Alawite minority to lay down their arms before it's too late.
We will continue to pursue the remnants of the fallen regime, those who refused but to continue their operations and tyranny, those who committed crimes against the people, and those who seek to undermine security and civil peace. We will bring them to a fair court.
While the authorities say violence spiraled on Thursday after groups of Assad-aligned militia targeted security patrols and checkpoints in the Jable area surrounding countryside, curfews were declared on Friday in the coastal city of Tartus and Latakia. In view of violence, reinforcements were sent to the coastal region to crush a nascent insurgency by fighters from Bashar al-Assad's Alawite sect. In northwest of Hama, Syria's new authorities' security forces held a funeral in Qasoon village for a fighter killed in clashes with fighters loyal to former President Bashar al-Assad. Syrians took to the streets on Friday to rally in support of the government in Damascus and other cities. The United Nations has expressed concerns over violence. In a statement, the Office of Special Envoy of Secretary General of Syria said, all parties should refrain from actions that could further inflame tensions, escalate conflict, exacerbate the suffering of affected communities, destabilize Syria, and jeopardize a credible and inclusive political transition. While Russian Foreign Ministry on Friday said it was alarmed by a sharp deterioration in security situation in Syria and called on all respected leaders of the country to try to stop the bloodshed as soon as possible. According to UN, more than 300,000 refugees have returned to Syria since President Assad was overthrown, while nearly 1 million more people were displaced inside the country have returned to their homes.
1 million internally displaced people living in camps and sites across northwest Syria intend to return to their areas of origin within the next year. 600,000 of them before the end of the summer 2025, according to a new large-scale intention survey carried out by UNHCR.
Bashar al-Assad was toppled in a lightning offensive late last year by rebels who have now formed a transitional government. Fuzail Ahmed reports for DD India.
And the US Department of Justice has dropped its proposal to force Google to sell its investments in artificial intelligence companies, including Anthropic, a competitor to OpenAI. The DOJ had sought to boost competition in online search by requiring Google to divest its AI investments. However, the DOJ still seeks to require Google to sell its Chrome browser and take other measures to address the company's alleged illegal search monopoly. Google has argued that these proposals would harm American consumers, the economy, and national security. The case is part of a broader crackdown on big tech companies, with Apple, Meta platforms also facing allegations of maintaining illegal monopolies. And the International Women's Day, marked annually on 8 March, raises awareness of the issues impacting women all over the world. This year's theme is For All Women and Girls' Rights, Equality, Empowerment. The year 2025 also marks 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for actions to defend and advance women's rights. In India, President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi extended greetings on International Women's Day. Also, on IW Day, Women Achievers took over PM Modi's X handle. Fuzail Ahmed reports. The International Women's Day celebrates social, economic, cultural and political achievements of women. This year's theme, For All Women and Girls' Rights, Equally Empowerment, calls for action to unlock equal rights, power and opportunities for all women and girls. In line with this year's call for action, a metro station in Borivali, Mumbai made history by being managed and operated entirely by an all-women team. The year 2025 also marks the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. Secretary General urged action-oriented approach to empower women. UN Chief in a statement said,
"When the doors of equal opportunity are open for women and girls, everyone wins. Equal societies are more prosperous and peaceful and the foundation of sustainable development. We need action to unlock finance so countries can invest in equality and to prioritize those investments. Action to open up equal opportunities for decent work, close the gender pay gap, and tackle challenges around care work. Action to strengthen and implement laws to end all forms of violence against women and girls. Action to secure women's full participation in decision-making, including in peace building. And action to remove the obstacles to women and girls in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
India's President Draupadi Murmu extended greetings on International Women's Day. President called for pledge to support women in their journey.
देश की नारी शक्ति राजनीतिक, आर्थिक और सामाजिक रूप से सशक्त बने और विकसित भारत के हमारे संकल्पों को नेतृत्व प्रदान करे, इसके लिए भारत सरकार निरंतर प्रयास कर रही है। नारी शक्ति बंधन अधिनियम के द्वारा लोकसभा और विभिन्न विधान सभाओं में महिलाओं के लिए आरक्षण का प्रावधान उनके राजनीतिक सशक्तिकरण की दिशा में ऐतिहासिक कदम है।
On International Women's Day, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi handed over social media accounts to women achievers. These women belong to different parts of India and have excelled in different areas. Prime Minister wrote on social media platform X, "Since morning, you have all seen inspiring posts by extraordinary women sharing their own journeys and inspiring other women. These women belong to different parts of India and have excelled in different areas. But there's one underlying theme, the prowess of India's Nari Shakti. Their determination and success remind us of the boundless potential women hold. Today and every day, we celebrate their contributions in shaping a Viksit Bharat." Numerous events are being held in India to mark International Women's Day. In Hyderabad, City Police organized the Run for Action 2025 program on Necklace Road, Hyderabad. While in national capital Delhi, the Fit India Pink Cyclothon Season 2 themed Sashakt Nari was flagged off to mark International Women's Day. A lot has changed since 1975 when International Women's Day was celebrated for the first time. However, more needs to be done to see women at the driver's seat. Fuzail Ahmed reports for DD India. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with the beneficiaries of Lakhpati Didi scheme in Navsari district in the western state of Gujarat on the occasion of International Women's Day on Saturday. Roads in Navsari turned into a grand celebration with people lining the streets in joy and admiration to welcome Prime Minister Modi. Interestingly, the security arrangements of the program is being taken care by the women police officials of Gujarat Police. Prime Minister Modi was felicitated at the Lakhpati Didi program in Vansiborsi village, where he addressed over 1.1 lakh women during the event. As part of the event, Prime Minister Modi also honoured 5 Lakhpati Didis with certificates. And the Prime Minister also distributed cheques to the beneficiaries of Lakhpati Didi scheme. Prime Minister Modi launched 2 new initiatives by the government of Gujarat, G Safal and G Maitri. G Safal will provide financial assistance and entrepreneurial training to SHG women from Antyodaya families in 2 aspirational districts and 13 aspirational blocks of Gujarat. Meanwhile, G Maitri will offer financial support and mentorship to startups working to improve rural livelihoods. And addressing the gathering at the Lakhpati Didi Sammelan in Gujarat, Prime Minister Modi highlighted the transformative power of women's empowerment, stating that when women become Lakhpati Didis, they change the destiny of the entire family. Listen in.
गांधी जी कहते थे, देश की आत्मा ग्रामीण भारत में बसती है. गांधी जी के कि देशનો આત્મા ભારતના ગામડામાં. आज मैं उसमें एक पंक्ति और जोड़ता हूं. ग्रामीण भारत की आत्मा ग्रामीण नारी के सशक्तिकरण में बसती है. इसलिए हमारी सरकार ने महिलाओं के अधिकारों को और महिलाओं के लिए नए अवसरों को बड़ी प्राथमिकता दी है. आज भारत दुनिया की 5वीं सबसे बड़ी इकोनॉमी बन चुका है.
On the occasion of the International Women's Day, the Society for Indian Law Firms, or the SILF, organized a conference in India's national capital, New Delhi, to honor and celebrate women and their remarkable achievements. The event saw the participation of senior advocates of the Supreme Court of India alongside key legal luminaries from across the country. The Attorney General of India, R. Venkatramani, graced the occasion as the chief guest and presented awards to distinguished women achievers in the field of law, legal journalism and politics. In his address, Venkatramani highlighted the pivotal role women play in shaping society.
At a personal level, I thought I am committed not only from the office which I hold, but as a part of the legal fraternity, committed to enhancing and supporting the cause of women in the legal profession in as many ways as possible. I think there are a lot of talents available in the legal fraternity will make this lot of things work very well for all of us.
In another key address, senior advocate Archana Pathak Dave commended the nation's heritage, referring to Bharat as a land where women are revered as a divine force, contributing significantly to diverse spheres of life.
We are fortunate to be born in Bharat, where women are revered as Shakti, Janani, symbolizing power, divine force that creates, sustains and evolves. It is the essence of existence. Our glorious past is brimmed with incredible and outstanding women and their contributions in diverse spheres. There were 15 great women out of the total 389 who were members of the Constituent Assembly, who put their heart and soul together to offer the citizens of Bharat the remarkable constitution that we cherish today and are so proud of.
And the Vice Chair of SILF, Neena Gupta, emphasized the indispensable role of women in uplifting society and driving progress.
16 years after Right to Education Act 2009 came into being, girls make only 48% of school population. This gap widens at the secondary school level. Educating women, therefore, is the answer. As they say, if a boy is educated, you educate an individual. But if a girl is educated, then you educate an entire generation. So we must all pledge today that each one of us should teach one.
And India's Electronics and IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav laid the foundation stone of the Gigafactory 1 in Devitipalli village in the southern Indian state of Telangana. Speaking on the occasion, Ashwini Vaishnav laid emphasis on the need to master the battery technology for achieving India's goal of self-reliance. He said that the battery technology is important for the country in the same way as steel and chemicals.
जो बैटरी टेक्नोलॉजी है, ये आज के युग में जैसे स्टील और केमिकल है, वैसे ही बैटरी टेक्नोलॉजी उतनी ही इम्पोर्टेंट है. देश के लिए जरूरत है बैटरी की टेक्नोलॉजी को, सेल की टेक्नोलॉजी को मास्टर करना, समझना और उसमें लेटेस्ट रिसर्च, लेटेस्ट डेवलपमेंट करना.
All right, still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Up next, Trump threatens Russia with sanctions until Ukraine peace reached. We'll discuss this in detail. And Delhi government approves 5,100 crore rupees for yearly for schemes for women in the UT.
There are people across the country and among industry sectors who are trying to make things better, rethinking the way we live.
We analyzed that if all of construction industry can start using recycled plastic sheets for just shuttering as an application, roughly 25 to 30% of all the non-recyclable plastics that you and I generate can get prevented from entering the atmosphere.
We must take responsibility as citizens to conserve these forests and protect them. They represent the cultural heritage of our ancestors.
That's a barrier made from larch, intended to dam water and help restore the wetland.
We use natural dyes for the garments. We extract the dye the way our ancestors did by using natural products with some modifications.
Welcome back. You're watching Didi India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, and we'll go back to our top story. US President Donald Trump threatens new sanctions and tariffs on Russia. And to discuss more on this, we are joined by Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, former senior diplomat. Welcome, sir. Welcome to Didi India. Welcome, sir. Appreciate you giving us your precious time. US President Donald Trump has announced that he is strongly considering imposing large-scale economic sanctions on Russia as the conflict in Ukraine intensifies. This is Trump's direct message to Russia and Ukraine. He said, get to the table right now before it is too late. Sir, how do you see this development?
Well, you know, we have to bear in mind that there has been a lot of criticism, even within the United States, that all the pressure for a peace deal is being piled by Donald Trump on just Ukraine and not Russia. So it's possible that Trump's threat to Russia is an attempt to present himself as being more balanced. Now, I'm not alone in saying so. John Bolton, the former national security advisor to Donald Trump, also believes that President Trump's threats of sanctions against Russia are his way of trying to demonstrate a balance with regard to Ukraine and Russia. Now, let's see what Trump said. He said that he's strongly considering large-scale sanctions and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and peace deal with Ukraine is reached. And he said he was contemplating this move because Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield right now. So in this sense, Trump's comments appear to mark a change in his tone, because since coming into office, he has praised the Russian President Vladimir Putin, and he has blamed Ukraine's leader Zelensky for not wanting peace with Russia. In fact, you may recall that last Friday, Trump had berated Zelensky in his Oval Office, and the public dressing down was followed this week by Trump pausing all US military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine. So it seems that all this enabled Russia's large-scale missile and drone attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure on Thursday night. So Trump naturally is in a position that he needs to show that he's maintaining balance. So in a post, he said, I'm strongly considering large-scale banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached. Now tell me, how serious are these sanctions going to be? Now, as regards the tariffs, US imports from Russia last year were less than $3 billion. So even if there are tariffs imposed with the low volume of trade, I don't think Putin is going to be worried much. And as regards banking sanctions and other sorts of sanctions which are being contemplated, you know, Russia has managed to evade and avoid all impacts of earlier sanctions by using the Chinese route. The Chinese banking system is very opaque, and the Russians have managed to use that route, and they have not really felt the impact of earlier sanctions. So I don't think Putin is very worried about the threats of sanctions, including banking sanctions, which are being contemplated. But nonetheless, it is also important to note that after talking tough with regard to Russia, President Trump adopted a more conciliatory tone. And he said that he believed that Putin wants peace. And he also said that he was finding it difficult to deal with Ukraine. And this is all within a few hours of his holding out the threat of sanctions, including banking sanctions and tariffs against Russia. So there is no doubt that his comments in regard to these sanctions have not really worried Vladimir Putin too much for the reasons which I have just mentioned.
Donald Trump wants to reflect a balanced tone, you are saying, and that's why maybe a shift in Trump's stance. But Ambassador Dayal, you think increased economic pressure could force Russia to the negotiating table?
Well, certainly more pressure is needed to get Russia to the negotiating table. Of course, Putin has said he will not make any concessions. He has said this in very clear and outright terms. But, you know, if the US negotiates properly with him, then it is possible that some sort of a deal can be worked out. Of course, Russia occupies a huge tract of Ukrainian territory, including, of course, Crimea. And Putin has made it clear he's not going to give up any of the territory that he's held. In fact, he wants more. So reaching an agreement is not going to be very easy. But nonetheless, it's important that the US appears to be more balanced in this approach. And in this context, as I said earlier, President Trump's remarks in regard to imposing some sanctions, banking sanctions, tariffs on Russia, may be intended to exert some pressure. How far they will succeed as far as Russia is concerned, I don't know. Let us see how things pan out. But in any case, we are all watching with interest what is going to happen in Saudi Arabia in the next few days, because President Zelensky is going there and he'll be having talks with the US side. And there is a possibility that some sort of an agreement will be worked out in regard to the mineral resources. Now, President Trump is very keen to get hold of the mineral resources of Ukraine. And in fact, that is the one concession he wants. But he's not in a position to get any concessions from Russia. And therefore, maybe this threat of imposing sanctions has to be seen in that context.
It will be interesting to see what happens in the coming days. But Ambassador Dayal, in the week since the Oval Office blow-off, we all know about that, Ukrainian officials have attempted to mend fences with their US counterparts. And both parties, like you said, are set to meet in Saudi Arabia next week. And hope, Ambassador Dayal, this meeting will be more meaningful.
Well, certainly, we all want an end to the war. In fact, no one has said this more clearly than our Prime Minister, who has repeatedly said this is not an era of war. And everybody wants the Ukrainian side and the Russian side to sit together at the table and work out an agreement. In fact, it is heartening to note that President Trump has said so very categorically to both sides, saying that please come and sit at the table, because it is necessary to bring this war to an end. Of course, unless Russia feels some due pressure, it is not going to make any concessions. And in the broader context of ending the war, some give and take is going to be necessary. So let's see whether President Trump is able to exert due pressure on the Russian side, as indeed he has done on the Ukrainians. He has put enormous pressure on the Ukrainians. Let's see whether the sort of pressure he wants to exert, or at least try to show that he wants to exert on the Russians, is going to have any effect, because, as I said earlier, everybody wants an end to this war.
Right. Ambassador Dayal, very quickly, just hours after threatening Russia with sanctions, Trump says he trusts Putin more over Zelensky. What do you make of this statement?
Well, I think he has been very consistent in saying that he trusts Putin. The whole of the European Union and various other countries, including, of course, Canada, are not trusting Putin. But President Trump has been very, very categorical in the fact that he trusts Putin and that he is sure that Putin wants an end to the war. Of course, some of the signals that we see coming out of Russia do not indicate any willingness on the part of Russia, as I said earlier, to make concessions. And therefore, will Ukraine be made to submit to Russian terms unilaterally? It remains to be seen. But at the moment, well, this threat of imposing sanctions has to be viewed in that context of President Trump trying to appear more balanced and trying to put some sort of pressure on the Russians to make them come and sit at the table and work out a peace agreement. Absolutely. And next few days, like you said, will be very interesting, especially when Trump and Zelensky meet in Saudi Arabia. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for your insights, Ambassador Dayal.
Shifting focus, today marks International Women's Day, a worldwide occasion to celebrate women's achievements and champion the ongoing fight for gender equality. The Canada-India Foundation held a dynamic event in Toronto featuring inspirational speakers, panel discussions and thought leaders from diverse fields. Didi India's Tarun Pal takes us to the roof garden at the Holiday Inn Toronto International Airport for more on this empowering gathering.
She is brilliance carved in starlight, a tapestry of empathy and might. In her laughter and in her tears, she birthed hope, quells ancient fears. Guardian of tomorrow, keeper of the flame, on this day we rise in her name. On the occasion of International Women's Day 2025, Canada-India Foundation hosted an inspiring and empowering celebration. The event brought together influential leaders, change makers and community members to honor women's achievement and discuss strategies to accelerate action of gender equality.
We at Canada-India Foundation, we always celebrate women. Coming from India, we come from a culture, we come from a country where, Women's Day is every day for us.
It is always a pleasure to celebrate International Women's Day, but we have to speak the truth and know and understand that without action from women, we see violence against women, positions in corporation as threatened, and frankly, we want to make sure that we empower each other to make change.
The theme for panel discussion was Accelerate Action for Gender Equality. And the atmosphere here was changed with excitement and purpose. Renowned figures from various industries gathered to share the experience, offer insight and highlight the pressing need to drive meaningful social and professional change of women worldwide.
It is amazing. I think these are the types of events that we do need to come together to highlight some of the fantastic work women do. And when we celebrate that, I think it inspires some of the younger children to say, one day I will be able to do that as well.
Our firm at BDO Canada has done quite a bit of research, and we found that women leaders and women business owners are a $200 billion market in Canada. Women are moving into leadership positions at a pace we've never seen before. 25% of business owners are women, and these kinds of initiatives provide networking opportunities and growth opportunities for all of those women. So it's fantastic.
Women's leadership propels innovation, strengthens organizational culture and fuels substantial growth in diverse industries. They also exchange practical strategies to promote inclusivity and support aspiring women leaders.
I think it is very important in our community, especially being so far away from India as it is, to make sure that we're empowering the women that are here.
Throughout the evening, attendees voiced their excitement to see so many influential speakers in one venue, reflecting on the progress made and the challenges yet to be addressed. The event concluded with lively networking session, forging new collaboration and reinforcing a commitment to nurturing female talent across all sectors. From Canada, Tarun Pal Singh.
Let's now take a look at other stories making news. Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta has launched the Mahila Samriddhi Yojana, a scheme providing 2,500 rupees to women on International Women's Day. She also stated that 5,100 crore rupees has been allocated in Delhi budget for the scheme's implementation. Union Minister of Civil Aviation Ram Mohan Naidu inaugurated Udan Yatri Cafe at Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport in Ahmedabad on Saturday. Located in Terminal 1's check-in hall, the cafe offers snacks starting at just ₹20, making airport dining more accessible. This initiative aligns with the government's mission to modernize airport infrastructure while ensuring affordability for the passengers. The Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, visited Noida on Saturday to inaugurate several major projects, including the foundation stone ceremony for a Microsoft campus in Sector 145. The campus, set to span 5 acres, marks a significant milestone for the region's IT infrastructure. Additionally, Adityanath inaugurated IT firm Max Building and CIFI's AI data center, both located in Sector 132 on 5-acre plots. The Railway Ministry of India reported a five-fold surge in women loco pilots, rising from 371 in 2014 to 1,828 today. Women now comprise 8.2% of the workforce, excelling in roles like station masters and signal maintenance. Most women loco pilots hail from the states of Uttar Pradesh, Telangana and Tamil Nadu. Indian Railways is also empowering women RPF personnel with chili spray cans, demonstrating a firm commitment to gender equality and security. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. India and New Zealand all set for the Champions Trophy title clash in Dubai on Sunday. India's Ayush Shetty continues his solid run at the Orleans Master Badminton Tournament in France.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. Sri Lankan President Anura Kumara Dissanayake held a virtual meeting with IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, reaffirming the island nation's commitment to economic reforms under the Extended Fund Facility. As Sri Lanka reaches the halfway mark of its 48-month EFF arrangement, President Dissanayake expressed gratitude for the IMF's support in overcoming the 2022 economic crisis. The President emphasized that ongoing collaboration with the IMF is crucial to sustaining economic recovery amid global uncertainties. And leading Indian flyer Indigo is commencing direct flights between Tiruchirappalli and Jaffna. The new international service will begin operations on March 30th, enhancing connectivity between the two countries. According to the flight schedule, Indigo will operate flight 6 days a week, with departures from Tiruchirappalli at 13:25, arriving in Jaffna at 14:25. The return flight from Jaffna will depart at 15:10 and reach Tiruchirappalli by 16:05. This expansion is expected to boost travel and trade between India and Sri Lanka, particularly benefiting passengers in the northern province of Sri Lanka. Now, Catholics have been flocking to Rome's Gemelli Hospital, where Pope Francis is receiving treatment for double pneumonia. The 88-year-old pontiff has not been seen in public since being hospitalized on February 14th. The Vatican has given no indication of when he might be discharged and resume his duties, but it has been giving a detailed assessment of Pope's health. All right, sports updates now. We'll start with cricket. India's dominant run in the ICC Champions Trophy 2025 has sparked debates about whether they have an unfair advantage by playing all the matches at one venue in Dubai. But does this claim really hold up? A closer look at the facts suggests otherwise. DD India's Narayan Singh brings us more on this.
There have been discussion about whether India has an unfair advantage in the 2025 ICC Champions Trophy by playing all their matches at one venue in Dubai. Former cricketers like Nasir Hussain, Michael Atherton, David Miller and Rassi van der Dusen have raised concern about India's perceived advantage in Dubai, and many current cricketers also said this. However, a closer look at the fact shows that this claim does not hold much ground. Firstly, even though India played at the same stadium, they played on the different pitches in each match, and the behavior of these surfaces varied significantly. This means they had to adapt to the changing condition every time, just like any other team. Secondly, India's practice sessions took place at the ICC Academy in Dubai, where playing conditions are totally different from the main stadium where they are playing, and they weren't getting extra familiarity with the match pitch. Meanwhile, teams playing in Pakistan have had the benefit of clear traffic routes, while in Dubai, Indian team has faced traffic delays while traveling for their practice sessions before the match and during the match day also. If you talk about also the travel time from Pakistan to Dubai, it's around 2 hours, and it's not a big deal for the teams to travel. It's also worth noting that the 2023 ODI World Cup, India played at 10 different venues across the country, whereas some teams during the tournament played consecutively many matches at the same ground. So India never complained at that time. Meanwhile, India's captain Rohit Sharma dismisses these claims, stating that Dubai is not their home ground and they have had to adapt to different pitches for each match. And he welcomes the challenging condition, believing that it makes the contest more interesting. Meanwhile, Chitashis Pujara, India's star test batter, also disagrees with the notion of an unfair advantage. He points out that Champions Trophy schedule was finalized week before the tournament and Dubai was chosen for the logistical convenience. Pujara believes the real advantage lies in team's talent, particularly its depth in spin bowling, and India has a fantastic spin bowling attack. All in all, cricket is about skill, strategy and execution on the field, not about making excuses. India's success in this tournament is a result of their top quality cricket, not so-called advantage.
And Dubai is buzzing with anticipation as India and New Zealand prepare to face off in the ICC Champions Trophy final on Sunday. Recent encounters between these cricketing powerhouses have set the stage for a compelling showdown. India have entered the final with an unbeaten run, including a 44-run victory over New Zealand in the group stage. The two teams also clashed in the 50-over World Cup semi-final in Mumbai in 2023, where India emerged victorious by 70 runs. In the ICC tournament, New Zealand's last ODI victory against India came in the World Cup semi-final in 2019, where India fell short by 18 runs. While India have demonstrated dominance in recent matches, New Zealand's ability to perform under pressure remains a significant factor. The upcoming final promises to be a high-stake battle. All right, DD India's Narayan Singh joins us live to talk more on this. Narayan, big match tomorrow, India versus New Zealand, big final, and two most consistent teams in ICC tournaments are against each other tomorrow. Nail-biting contest on the cards.
Definitely, it's going to be nail-biting and a high-voltage clash in Dubai, because both the teams are the most formidable team of the tournament, the way they have played. And if you talk about their players also, they are in well shape, whether it's top order, middle order, they are bowlers. And both the teams too have the fantastic spinners in their lineup, especially if you talk about India, the way their quartet has just demolished their opponents and won all the matches in the league matches in the semi-final too. And talking about the New Zealand, their spinners too are equivalent to India. And we know that the way Mitchell Santner has played for the New Zealand, it was fantastic. And Bresswold too is doing well. And in Rachin Ravindra too can also do damage for their opponents. So it's a battle of the equals, and I'm hoping that it will be a nail-biter and will go down the wire, because the kind of cricket New Zealand also played was fantastic. They lost only one match, that was against India, and that was in Dubai, and so they are familiar with the condition, and definitely they will try to remove all the errors and mistakes they did in the group match against India. So a fantastic platform for the New Zealand too, but I think the way India is on a winning streak, definitely it will be a tough job for the New Zealand team against India.
And Narayan, we don't see any changes in the playing 11 tomorrow, because India have been doing well, and why to tinker with the winning combination? But India looks strong on paper. 9 wickets were taken by Indian spinners in the league game against the same opponent, New Zealand. But we also need to agree that New Zealand plays spin well, and the batsmen are in good form in the tournament.
Definitely, if we talk about a team who can play spinners, we can say that very well, that is New Zealand. And apart from the thing that any country who can play in the subcontinent condition, the spinners well, that is New Zealand. And kudos to New Zealand over the years, the way they have just groomed their squad, the way they have maintained and assembled their squad. It is fantastic. Talking about the 3-match test series in India, they whitewashed India first time in a 3-match series. So it shows that their spinners are well and their batsmen are capable to play against the spin too. Talking about the Ravindra Jadeja, he is going to be the next big thing in the next decade of the cricket. And in the last 18 months, Russian Ravindra has scored 5 centuries in the ICC tournament. And talking about their batting grade, Kane Williamson has 2, and other big names has less than that. This shows the caliber of the Russian Ravindra. And then the previous encounter in the group match against New Zealand, India dismissed him early. So again, they need to do same thing in tomorrow's final match also, because we know that how dangerous Russian Ravindra could be for any opponent. So that would be the key for India.
Absolutely. Big final tomorrow, and the match will start at 2:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Thank you for inputs, Narayan. India's Ayush Shetty continued his solid run at the Orleans Masters badminton tournament in France with a win over Denmark's Rasmus Gemke in the quarterfinals. The 19-year-old Indian badminton player beat Gemke 21-16, 21-23, 21-17 to qualify for the semis. Shetty will play world number 14 Lin Chun-Ye in his next clash on Saturday. Shetty began the contest with aggressive intent and clinched the first game. Gemke forged his way back into the match by winning the second. The third game of the contest saw Shetty lead 11-9 at the mid-game break. Shetty built on the momentum after the change of ends and wrapped up the match in an hour and 21 minutes. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.